Hello, I'm Susan Hensley, and this is number 0812, the Stuff File Program with Peter Anthony Holder, and it comes to you right now.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Now, it's time for an eclectic mix of interviews and some of the oddest news stories you'll ever hear. It's the Stuff File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Hey there, hi there, ho there! Peter Anthony Holder here with you, and yes, this is indeed another edition of the Stuff File Program, number 0812. And coming up on this edition of the Stuff File Program, you'll meet Aaron Smith, who is the author of Natural Born, Circus, Sideshow, and the Art of Being Human. What was his interest in writing this book?
Well, I used to be in the circus back in my wayward youth. When I was 19, I was in Ringling Brothers and the Big Apple Circus, primarily as a vendor. I lived on the train. I set up and tore down the Big Top. During the pandemic, I was interested in a book. I was looking around and I realized that disabled people are still performing in sideshows. It's not just a thing of the past. And I became very interested in this. And I thought, if there are still disabled people performing in sideshows, I want to write a book about them.
Joshua Bronfman is the creator of The Dreamer. It's the ultimate baby sound machine.
When my wife and I had our first kid, we were traveling and we got this cheap plastic sound machine that some friends recommended. We're at this house, our kid's sleeping, and all of a sudden he's not sleeping. We walk into the room and this sound machine is dead. As new parents, there's no book for this. We're doing the best we can. We're trying to make things work. When your wife turns to you and says, fix this, you better fix it, right? And, part of that conversation, the experience of that was like, I can do better than this. And my wife goes, then do it.
Stuart Nulman is in with another edition of Book Banter.
Hi, I'm Stuart Nulman. Book Banter reviews Frida McFadden's latest chilling bestseller, The Boyfriend. Think you found your Mr. or Ms. right? Take a lesson from Frida McFadden later on the Stuff File Program.
And there's lots and lots of Stuff File news, dad joke theater, morning shower thoughts, and of course, an idiot of the day. The guests later. The person who told you this was show number 0812 was Susan Hensley, the author of Art for Your Sanity. Susan was a guest on show number 0800, and on this week's show, which you just heard her say the number to, you can find the interview that she did just by going to the link. It's as simple as that. Thank you very much, Susan, for doing the guest slate on this edition of the Stuff File Program, a show that is listener-supported, fan-funded radio that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Well, let's get right to the stuff. In Florida, officials with the Gainesville Police Department responded to a BMW dealership after a suspect drove their vehicle into the building after being denied a test drive. Police arrested 20-year-old Kevin Alexander Lehman for attempting to steal a vehicle from the business. Authorities said Lehman went in with the intentions to buy an M4 valued at $110,000, but did not pass the credit check required for qualifying for a test drive. Lehman allegedly became upset and attempted to grab the keys to the vehicle as he was exiting the building. Employees did not allow him to take the keys. Gainesville police said Lehman went back out into the parking lot and sat in his car before circling the dealership twice, then hitting the gas and running into the windows of the showroom. Officers said when he crashed inside, he rummaged around and continued to look for the keys to the vehicle, but was not successful. He left on foot and was tracked down by police a short distance later. Lehman had to complete a medical checkup before getting detained. They estimate the damage to the building was about $60,000. Lehman faces grand theft auto felony and criminal mischief charges.
The soul of BMW. Where will you find it?
Well, not by driving through their window, that's for sure. Anyway, looking for a true definition of irony? How about this story? 3 framed paintings were stolen from St. Andrew's Church in Little Steeping, England on February 23rd. One was a painting of the Lord's Prayer, the second depicted Moses delivering the 10 Commandments, and the third illustrated the commandments themselves, including, "Thou shalt not steal." While the church was unclear about the value of the paintings, they held sentimental value to the parishioners. I'm wondering how come these crooks didn't burst into flames while they were in the church. Police in the far north region of New Zealand are trying to figure out who owns an item that fell off a truck blocking the road. What was big enough to block the road? A house. And the driver didn't stick around to fess up. Police say they have no immediate information to confirm speculation of a stolen house. A contractor was brought in to widen the road so traffic could get by while someone figures out how to move the house without damaging it further. Well, ask authorities in Kansas. I understand they have experience in such matters.
I'm a little muddled. The Munchkins call me because a new witch has just dropped a house on the Wicked Witch of the East. And there's the house. And here you are.
And finally, in this section of Stuff File News, before we get to our first guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder, in late 2024, a 3-inch long flaming hot Cheeto went viral online for its likeness to the third evolutionary phase of the fire-based starter Pokemon Charizard. The bite-sized collectible was dubbed Cheetozard, and Golden Auctions in Runnymede, New Jersey eventually put it up for sale in a bidding war. Then, on March the 2nd, in a mind-boggling turn of events, Cheetozard sold for $87,840.
Blame it, not Cheetos, anyone?
That's art?
That's not art. That's bogus.
The 3-inch long flaming hot Cheeto, affixed to a customized Pokemon card and encapsulated in a clear card storage box, was discovered and preserved sometime between 2018 and 2022.
Blame it on Cheetos. Deliciously hot, dangerously cheesy.
Yeah, this is cheesy, all right. Pokemon fans may recall how coveted those holographic Charizard trading cards were as kids, but apparently the Charizard Cheeto is more precious. According to Golden's website, the Cheeto was initially discovered and preserved by First and Goal Collectibles in Georgia. In that viral Instagram video that I mentioned earlier, which has since amassed more than 500,000 views, they wrote, "We've had the Cheetozard for about 5 years now, and we totally forgot we had it until cleaning out the safe." So, how many bidders were there for the nearly $88,000 Cheeto? 60. 60. 60. I don't get it.
It's a Cheetos thing.
Apparently. Anyway, let's get to our first guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program, shall we? Aaron Smith is the author of Natural Born: Circus, Sideshow, and the Art of Being Human. It's a book that delves into the lives and performances of disabled artists in modern sideshows and circuses. Aaron joins us via Zoom from New York. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for being on the show. What made you interested in this particular topic for a book?
Well, I used to be in the circus back in my wayward youth. When I was 19, I was in Ringling Brothers and the Big Apple Circus, primarily as a vendor. I lived on the train. I set up and tore down the Big Top. So I've always been interested in circuses. And during the pandemic, I was interested in a book, and I was looking around, and I realized that disabled people are still performing in sideshows. It's not just a thing of the past. And I became very interested in this. And I thought, if there are still disabled people performing in sideshows, I want to write a book about them. And so I did. And they call themselves the Natural Born. It's slang for people with disabilities. They refer to themselves as natural born with these disabilities, or they call themselves the Naturals, thus the name of the book. It's about natural born performers in sideshows and circuses, and it's modern day. It's not a history book.
Now, the subtitle of your book, and I want to get into that too, is Circuses, Sideshows, and the Art of Being Human. What do you mean by the art of being human?
Basically, a sideshow is an art, and the naturals who participate in sideshow are using it as a platform for their own artistic endeavors. And many of them are basically using it to kind of showcase their disability, to exhibit themselves in a way in which they choose. So they're using sideshow not only as a form of artistic expression that only really a natural born performer could do, but they are also using it to control the narrative and to basically present to the world the way that they want to be presented themselves.
So it sounds like, as you're describing it, an extremely positive experience from their point of view in working in today's sideshows, as opposed to, I would assume, what it was like in the last century and even before that, because let's be honest, we would call them freak shows, unfortunately, back in the
Yes.
day. So when did the change take place where it's not something that, was the only thing you can do? It became something that you did with pride.
Yeah, I'm very cautious about using the F word, freak. There are some naturals who use the word to refer to themselves in sort of taking ownership of it. I'm very cautious about it. In terms of did sideshow change? Well, back in the 19th century, unfortunately, there were enslaved people in sideshows. Barnum himself used enslaved people in natural born performers in sideshows. That is not the case anymore. The thing that modern day sideshow naturals will tend to mention during these interviews is that there were very successful sideshow performers in the 19th century, like Rondian and various stars, Tom Thumb, and various stars that were presented by P.T. Barnum and others. So a lot of these sideshow performers, they were going and working for themselves, or they worked with managers. So some of them actually did very well. In the modern context, sideshow naturals, they tend to point to those success stories. They say there were cases of exploitation, but now everything's voluntary. So I interviewed about 20 naturals who perform in sideshows in this book. They all said that they're doing it voluntarily. No one was forcing them to do it, and they see it as a positive thing for themselves. It's a way to make money, though it also seems primarily to be a form of artistic expression. So that's one thing I want to convey with this book. No one that I talked to seemed to think that they were being exploited. There was one natural who said, if anybody's exploiting anybody, I'm exploiting myself. And part of it is that to a certain extent, it's always been that way. But part of it is also that the modern day naturals are sort of taking control of the sideshow and reinventing it in their own image.
You mentioned working yourself in the circus when you were a youth, and now you've written this book and you are a journalist. So in the process of writing this book, even though you had a background in the circus, was there anything that you came across in doing the research that surprised you?
Thank you. That's a great question. I mean, a lot of it was really surprising because it was delving into new territory. There were a couple of little people who were in Ringling Brothers when I was working there back in the 1980s. They were clowns. They were not presented as sideshow freaks, as it were. It was just sort of like they're clowns and they happen to be little people. I think that's kind of how it was presented. There wasn't like a constructed sideshow environment for naturals. The things that I would have learned was, I mean, this is all new to me. So there was much to learn about how modern day performers present themselves into what you might think of as like a 19th century style sideshow forum. It's very punk rock. There's a lot of tattoos. There's a lot of facial jewelry. And there's a lot of social media. There are many different modern elements to how people present themselves in sideshow. There's a lot of YouTube videos, in fact, and so there are different forums that people use to try to contact the greater world and to get more exposure. The more successful one of them all, Matt Frazier, eventually made the leap into television and was on American Horror Story, their freak show series. He's become quite famous doing a lot of different TV work. And one last thing I would like to say is there's a sideshow called Hell's a Poppin', which often tours with metal bands and rock bands, and they have naturals working for them, like Shorty the Half Man, Nick Sin, Satan John. These are various people who've worked with Hell's a Poppin'. And they tour with metal shows, which is not something P.T. Barnum would have done. So I get into that in the book too. I just explore the new ways in which people do old things, I guess.
Well, speaking of the new ways of doing old things, just the word, I mean, we already dispelled the term freak show, but even the word sideshow seems to sound like it's secondary. It's not equal to a circus. Do you find that that's the case, or are they melding more together and there isn't a sideshow per se, but a circus?
That's a really great question because the word sideshow is probably a term that would be rooted in the 19th century, where sideshows were in fact sideshows to a big circus like Ringling Brothers or something like that. I don't think we really see that now. I haven't seen that, unless you would say Hell's a Poppin' is a sideshow for, Mushroom Head or whatever metal band they're touring with. But if you were to go to Coney Island, or and you would see go to Coney Island, USA, see the permanent sideshow that they have there, or if you were to see like a traveling tented show like World of Wonders, what you would experience there is that the sideshow is actually the main act. And I think that when we run across sideshow in modern America, that's generally how it is now. It's the main show, the main act.
And when it comes to, and I'm doing air quotes, the sideshow, are the numbers of sideshows equal or greater than what they used to be?
Oh, it's much smaller now. Let's see if I can name them all. You have Coney Island, USA. You've got Hell's a Poppin'. You have World of Wonders. Those are the main three. But you also have 999 Eyes in Austin. You have Museum of the Weird also in Austin. That's not really a sideshow. Those sideshow people have performed there. And you have Squidling Brothers. I've actually named all the sideshows that I can think of that may or may not be currently touring right now. That's about a half a dozen. There used to be a lot more sideshows in America. It kind of peaked around mid-20th century. So from like the 19th century through the 20th century up until the second half of the 20th century, you would have had quite a lot more sideshows than you have now.
So in your book, Natural Born, Circus, Sideshow, and the Art of Being Human, what is it that you hope readers take away from reading your book?
The number one thing is I want people to know about sideshows. I want the general public to know that there are disabled people performing in sideshows in America right now, that this is still going on. And I'm asking, once people become aware of this scene, of this subculture, I'm asking my readers to be open-minded about it. A lot of people don't like sideshows. A lot of people, disabled and non-disabled, don't like them for the view that they are exploiting disabled people. I would say, please be more open-minded about that. That's not really the case anymore. If you have a negative opinion about sideshows, maybe you haven't seen a modern one. So I'm asking people to be open-minded and check it out and see what it's all about. And please read my book before forming your own opinion about it.
Well, congratulations on the book. The book is again called Natural Born, Circus, Sideshow, and the Art of Being Human. Aaron, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be on the program with us.
Thank you, Peter. I really appreciate it.
Aaron Smith, author of Natural Born, Circus, Sideshow, and the Art of Being Human. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0812, and you'll find links to Aaron's site. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
And now, Dad Joke Theater.
What do you call a line of men waiting to get haircuts? A barbecue!
Join us again for another Stuff File program, Dad Joke Theater.
There's still more guests, more news, and an idiot of the day coming your way on the Stuff File program. Stay tuned.
The Stuff File program is a listener-supported, fan-funded radio show that depends on you for our success. Join us at patreon.com to help make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. Sign up and find out about our rewards program. Being a patron doesn't have to be a long-term commitment. There's absolutely no obligation. You could join today and end whenever you'd like. But the time we have your support would be so greatly appreciated. We'd also love to hear your thoughts about the show and even your ideas for rewards. Join us for the ride. Join us at patreon.com/The Stuff File program. You're listening to the Stuff File program. Good times start here. Where they end up depends on how good your legal team is. Here's Peter Anthony Holder.
And still to come in the program, we will talk to Joshua Bronfman, who is the creator of The Dreamer. Plus, Stuart Nulman is in with another edition of Book Banter. We still have a morning shower thought and, of course, an idiot of the day coming your way. But we have much more in Stuff File News right here, right now. In Florida, 32-year-old Jathan Gilder allegedly swallowed $770,000 worth of Tiffany earrings shortly before being arrested for theft. Gilder told Tiffany & Company employees that he was a representative of the NBA's Orlando Magic and was taken to a VIP room to examine high-end jewelry. However, after a struggle, Gilder ran off with what police believe are 2 earrings. As he was being taken into custody, Gilder swallowed the merchandise. Sitting in the patrol car, an arresting trooper heard him say, "I should have thrown them out the window." In jail, Gilder spontaneously asked staff, "Am I going to be charged with what's in my stomach?" A scan taken at the Washington County Jail discovered foreign objects in his stomach. Gilder was booked on suspicion of grand theft. Well, I think the x-rays remove any suspicion. Here's a question. When all is said and done and the earrings are recovered and the case is over and they're no longer evidence, would you spend almost $750,000 to put something on your ear that's been through someone's digestive tract? I know I won't. Anyway, 34-year-old Jordan Dove of Lugoff, South Carolina, and his daughter stopped by his uncle's home in St. Matthews, South Carolina on February 24th to check on it. The uncle, Alfonso Brown, is incarcerated in Maryland, but as they approached the front door, the daughter said they heard sounds similar to fireworks, and she noticed her father had been shot. Thomas Summers, the Calhoun County Sheriff, said Brown had booby-trapped his home by screwing a shotgun inside the home, pointing toward the door. Said Summers, he knew he would be on the run. He knew that he would be tracked back to Calhoun County. He knew that we would be coming out to get him, and I think he set this up for us. Unfortunately, his nephew died at the hospital. As a result, Brown will be charged with murder and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. You know, I've seen this kind of booby-trapped front doors in movies and television shows. It makes you wonder how many homes across America might be set up this way. A woman witnessed a man trying to steal an older woman's purse in a grocery store parking lot in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. The witness beat the robber with her own purse and a shopping bag, chasing him off. He then jumped into the driver's seat of a nearby SUV. The owner of that vehicle, sitting in the passenger seat, quickly pulled the keys out of the ignition. The carjacker demanded the passenger's money and threatened to shoot him, so the passenger grabbed the only weapon handy, a metal fork, and stabbed the carjacker in the face. The robber took off again, this time running to a drugstore a mile away, proceeding directly into the restroom. Not surprisingly, employees at that store called police, who put two and two together and waited outside the restroom, arresting 60-year-old Eddie Leon Gaines when he emerged. He is charged with unarmed robbery, carjacking, and unlawful imprisonment, and is being held on a $250,000 cash-only bond. He faces up to life in prison. Well, you know, even criminals have really, really bad days on the job. And you could say that his day included really getting forked. Amy Priest of Carrick, Australia, got up from bed to let her dogs out in early March, then decided to make a bathroom stop. But while she was relieving herself, a Tasmanian devil ran into the bathroom, chased by the dogs, and hid behind the toilet.
The Tasmanian devil's liable to get you. He's a mean, vicious, nasty, no-good, baggy-eyed, marble-headed ignoramus,
said Amy. I've never seen one that close. She trapped the animal in the bathroom, then got on social media for help. By the way, you know what a Tasmanian devil is, right?
A strong, murderous beast, jaws as powerful as a steel trap, has ravenous appetite, eats tigers, lions, elephants, buffaloes, donkeys, giraffes, octopuses, rhinoceroses, mooses, ducks.
That basically sums it up. Anyway, Amy contacted Olivia Dykstra, a catcher of snakes and other critters. She showed up using a snake bag and a broom to wrangle the devil. She got it, but the bathroom didn't fare so well, said Dykstra. There was nothing in that bathroom that had not been upset. Kicked off shells, you name it. So, what did she do with the devil?
That's that.
What for you bury me in the cold, cold ground?
No, not that. She delivered the devil to an area where they're often sighted. Sure, increase their numbers, why don't you? Yeah. Anyway, let's get to our next guest here in this edition of the Stuff File program, shall we? If your baby has trouble sleeping, then as a parent, you have trouble sleeping. That's why Joshua Bronfman created the Dreamer, the ultimate baby sound machine, because necessity is the mother of invention. Joshua joins us via Zoom from Scottsdale, Arizona. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Peter, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Just tickety-boo. Thanks very much for being on the program with us. So what was it about this sleep aid that you had, the Dreamer? What was it about this that you couldn't find something on the market, and what forced you to create this?
Yeah, well, as you said, invention is the necessity is the mother of invention, right? So when my wife and I had our first kid, we were traveling. We were at a rental house, and we got this cheap plastic sound machine that some friends recommended. So, we're at this house, our kid's sleeping, and all of a sudden he's not sleeping. And we walk into the room, and this sound machine is dead. And as new parents, there's no book for this. We're doing the best we can. We're trying to make things work, and the darn thing will not turn back on. And I'm not sure, when your wife turns to you and says, fix this, you better fix it, right? So, and the hard thing was, again, being in a rental, the machine we were working with had AA batteries, needed a screwdriver to access them. And at 2 a.m, a new house, I had no clue. And, part of that conversation, the experience of that was like, I can do better than this. And my wife goes, then do it. And it was like, okay. And it just, it festered. And, I've got an art background. And so just having design ideas in my head. And I really felt that we could bring a much higher quality product to the market. So that's where it started.
So what makes the Dreamer different from other baby sound machines?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, so for our team, our big goals were quality. With that, we really wanted to focus on safety, durability, mobility, and actually having a modern product that fit, parents like myself. So, one of the big things we added was this BPA-free silicone that, not only can your baby, toss it in their mouth, which, babies put everything in their mouths, but you drop this thing, you get it dirty. I mean, it is very resilient. And for parents like that, we travel a bunch, right? So we wanted something that could pop on the stroller, throw it in the diaper bag. So we've got this really cool magnetic strap. And it's the size of an iPhone. So you can toss this thing in a diaper bag and just really bring it anywhere. And then, we wanted something that you could control from your phone. You would have access to it. You don't necessarily need to be in your baby's room to change the song, to have the volume go up and down. So we've added a really cool app that allows us to bring updates, add new songs, bring new features. So just something that really was, that quality, but also just that modernization of something that just hadn't really been changed in a long time.
Well, speaking of long time, I mean, I'm an old fogey, so this is a technology that is beyond my limitations. So for us older folks, what do they sound like? What do they play? And what choices do you have?
For sure. Yeah. And that's another thing for ours that is a little bit different. So we currently have 8 sounds. All of these are bespoke soundscapes that we actually made ourselves. We've got a couple lullabies. We have rain. We have some pink noise, ocean waves. And then, for the moms out there, we've got a couple shushing sounds. So a lot of babies really feel calm and comfortable with like a shushing noise. But then one of the things we particularly added in the Dreamer, we found that, the science of sound has really, the research behind it has really perked up in the last few years. So we've added these 528 and 432 frequencies behind our soundscapes that actually really, they do a great job in calming the brain, calming the heart, and putting babies in. Even myself and my wife, we use this in our bedroom nowadays as well. But the frequencies really help calm the body and put our babies into a really restful experience.
Well, you just mentioned the fact that you and your wife actually use this, and I was also a little bit concerned about, is this a situation where a child, and I say child as in beyond baby, will not be able to go to sleep with one of these?
I think it depends on how you use it. I mean, I know for me, I've always liked to have some sort of noise in the background. I think it's definitely something that is great to have, and especially with the frequencies. And I think that, those things can change over time. The cool thing with the Dreamer in particular is that you'll be able to download, let's say, affirmations, or you'll be able to change the songs. But I guess just, and especially with, the world we live in and all and as our kids go into school and all that, the ability to kind of calm their heart rates and calm their brains is not necessarily something that I see a problem with. So
can you record on it? And the reason why I ask the question is nothing is more soothing than a parent's voice. Can you add that to the Dreamer?
Absolutely. So that is something that we're working on through our app. So what you'll be able to do is record yourself with your mobile device and then transfer that over to the Dreamer. So there's a lot of features that we'll be able to, that we're bringing to this product. Use it as a Bluetooth speaker. Again, add your own sounds, add mom's voice. For our son, there are particular like Disney shows and movies that he's enjoying right now. So a song from something like that. So yes, there's an ability to add whatever you want. And that was part of the difference between ours and other ones, right? Where we have this adaptability to grow and to add things to our product.
You said earlier that your wife said, fix it. And that sounded like a threat. So I'm just wondering, is she happy now?
I hope so. She's been an amazing support through all of this. And I think in that, in designing and doing this, we wanted something for our own kids. And, this is something that we use. We have a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old. So for naps and for bedtime, we use it. And again, we travel a bunch, and it's just something that we feel really proud of. We don't have the issues of needing a screwdriver anymore, right? We've got a USB-C sound port. So even for my wife, if she needs to charge it, or if she can handle it. And I think that she's also really proud of what we've been able to do and to help a lot of people out there.
With your own kids, you have a test market out there because, what one kid responds to is not necessarily what another child responds to. So did you find with the Dreamer that you have, more than one child, did they respond to different things?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the cool thing with our 2.5-year-old now is, it's a very simple device. We only have two buttons, and so he'll actually walk up and change the soundscape depending on the night. So he's loving ocean waves right now, which is really cool. And then for our daughter, she seems to respond really well to the first lullaby that we have on there. So yeah, it's very interesting to see kind of the difference, and even as, again, as our son grows, to see him want to explore more of the soundscapes as well.
So it's something that the child themselves can utilize as they get older.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and that's, one of the reasons why we made it the way we did, right? I mean, we wanted something that was very easy for parents to use, but then we've had some test kids as well in there, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, who in their own bedtime routines will just go up, turn the dreamer on, and that's part of their routine as well. So it's something, again, that we don't think is just for kids, 0 to 6 months, 0 to 3 years. I mean, this is something where it's a great addition to anyone's bedtime routine.
Well, as you said, you and your wife use it.
It is very rare that we go to bed and it's not, there's that, we'll stop reading a book or turn a show off, and we both get to bed and it's like, can you go grab the dreamer? It doesn't sound right in here, right? So it has become, an integral part of our routine as well.
Where can one get the dreamer?
So we are e-commerce right now, so you can find the dreamer on Amazon. And then we also have a store connected to our website at sleepwithdreamer.com. And our hope is to be in some brick and mortar, but right now we're all on e-commerce, and yeah.
And what does it retail for?
We retail for $99, but check back. We're doing, with Amazon and we do a lot of promotions, and like we just had a Valentine's Day promotion. So, we're trying to find other places to have more moms and more families have access to this.
This definitely is a better mousetrap. So when are you going on Shark Tank?
We've that's been mentioned to me quite a bit. I'm hoping to not have to. We've had a really good team behind us, not only in just moral support, but financial support. And we're hoping to kind of keep the dreamer in-house. It's a family business, and we're really hoping to keep it that way. And I think that's why we have so much pride in what we're doing, because we've all really done this together.
Well, congratulations on what you've done. Again, you can go to the website sleepwithdreamer.com. Joshua, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be on the program with us.
Peter, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Joshua Bronfman, creator of The Dreamer. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0812, and you'll find links to Joshua's site, plus links to either Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, where you can order The Dreamer directly. You're listening to the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
Giving you something to think about. This is Morning Shower Thoughts.
I'll bet that the first person to inhale helium was probably so relieved that the effects wore off quickly.
Morning Shower Thoughts from the Stuff File program.
Got something for the mailbag? Drop Peter a line. He'd love to hear from you. Send your email to mailbag@thestuffile.com. And remember, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's mailbag@thestuffile.com. Or catch up with him on Twitter or Facebook. There's more Stuff File coming your way in just a few moments.
Michael Liebling is the author of The Serial Killer's Son Takes a Wife. It's a page-turning thriller. You say you've read other serial killer novels? Oh, as Michael will tell you, not like this one.
It's not like any serial killer novel you've read before. It really goes behind the scenes. So when I say he takes a wife, you've got to imagine what it's like to be the offspring of somebody who's murdered multiple people. So how do you live with yourself after that? And you were just a kid when it all happened. If you fall in love, how do you tell the woman you love your dad was a serial killer? And how would she react? So the title, it's not entirely clear, but as you get into it, it will become very clear.
The Serial Killer's Son Takes a Wife. It's a recipe for mystery with a scoop of humor and a sprinkle of horror. The Serial Killer's Son Takes a Wife. Available now at Amazon and wherever you buy books. Hey, how would you like to become a patron of the Stuff File program? It's easy to do. By going to patreon.com and becoming a patron, you help to make this show an even bigger and better radio experience. And if you become a regular patron, as a Patreon reward, I'll share with you an electronic version of my book, Great Conversations, my interviews with two men on the moon and a galaxy of stars. You've heard me say on many occasions about the myriad of celebrities I've had the chance to talk to that are contained in my book, which is published by Bear Manor Media. You've also heard me mention that some of the celebrities in my book, and many others, can be heard on our page at patreon.com. If you've been on the fence about joining Patreon, let me try to pull you over to our side. Join Patreon and claim your copy of Great Conversations, my interviews with two men on the moon and a galaxy of stars. Sign up at patreon.com/The Stuff File Program.
From our studios in Montreal, Canada, and going out to the rest of the world, this is the Stuff File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. It's time to crack a spine. The Stuff File presents Book Banter with Stuart Nulman. Once again, here's Peter Anthony Holder.
And once again, Stuart Nulman is with us, and this time I believe he's talking about a boyfriend? Explain, Stuart.
Yeah, let me tell you about this edition of Book Banter, which we're going to explain. We're going to look at Frida McFadden, best-selling author who's huge now, because her latest book is called The Boyfriend. Focuses on Sydney Shaw. She's a 34-year-old working girl living in New York City. She likes her job. She likes hanging out with her BFFs, especially when they go to their regular yoga classes. You know, life's pretty good for Sydney, but there's one glaring exception. She is a flop when it comes to dating, mating, and relating, and trying to find that Mr. Right. So she tries a dating app called Cinch, C-Y-N-C-H, but still has no luck. That is until she comes across Kevin. His profile photo looked impressive, and Sydney agrees to set up a date with Kevin. And then came the big disappointment. Kevin ended up being the person who didn't live up to the impression he gave on his Cinch profile. In fact, he was a little bit older than his profile picture allowed. Now, while Sydney tried to distance herself from Kevin, he decided not to give up on her and behaved in a way that's not too far off from being a stalker. When he assaults her on the streets one evening, Sydney gets rescued from someone she later labels as the Mystery Man. Well, this Mystery Man is actually a guy named Tom Brewer, a successful doctor who works at a local hospital, and then somehow a relationship develops between the two. And she firmly believes that Tom is the man of her dreams. However, when her friend Bonnie is found murdered in her apartment, the suspect is alleged to be a man who dated Bonnie and has a modus operandi of dating his victims before killing them. Now, when the finger points to Tom as a potential suspect, Bonnie finds it hard, Sydney finds it hard to believe that until a related murder from his past strengthens her suspicions and fears that she may be his next victim. So that's the premise of Frida McFadden's latest best-selling chiller thriller, The Boyfriend. Now, before I continue with this review, I'd like to respond to a recent article that appeared on the Slate website that was quite critical of the McFadden phenomenon, in which the Boston-based neurological doctor turned author, she's written 23 books and sold over 6 million copies so far and counting. It attacks her books because, according to the article, the plots are formulaic and always climax with a shocking plot twist. In fact, it labels her as a quote-unquote twist machine. And as well, the article says that McFadden's style of fiction as more, and I quote again, more engineered than written, no atmosphere, no images, no texture, so bare bones she can't afford much in the way of red herrings or misdirection, unquote. Now, let me say that when one reads a Frida McFadden novel, don't expect the type of mystery that'll be solved by the logic of a Hercule Poirot, Sherlock Holmes, or even Michael Connelly's The Lincoln Lawyer, for that matter. The plots involve real people in realistic type situations, with that formulaic plot twist offered as a way to goose the reader from a dull, predictable outcome. Now, if that is to be expected from each of her novels, then so be it. Sometimes readers want to read a mystery or thriller as a means of diversion, similar to what the pulp fiction magazines and drugstore paperbacks offered decades ago. And readers just just don't want to be enlightened. They just want to be entertained once in a while.
I'm just curious, the person who said that was formulaic,
Yeah.
they've never seen a Hallmark movie, have they?
I guess not. Maybe that's not part of that. Maybe that's not part of Slate's editorial policy.
And I bring that up because, it was not too long ago we got through the Christmas holidays. If you watch any Christmas movie, you know exactly what's going to happen. You know when it's going to happen. But if you start watching one of those things, you have to follow it right to the end, even though you know every plot point along the way. That's just what it does.
Well, it's like same plot, different setting.
Yeah.
Well, think of, Freedom McFadden's book are like that too.
Exactly.
Yes, there's a plot, there's a twist at the end, but the setting's different. But people still want to read them.
Yeah.
They do.
And how many has she sold, you said?
So far, 6 million, but there's going to be much more than that. I mean, people are buying them like crazy. In fact, her new novel that was published just recently called The Crash debuted at #1 on the New York Times paperback fiction bestseller list.
Wow. Okay.
And 4 other books of her books were on that list, including The Boyfriend.
So I guess from her point of view, it's a situation of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to tell you something, but being entertained, that's what readers are going to get when they read The Boyfriend. I mean, it switches from the points of view of the 2 main characters throughout the book that unveils their imperfections and dark secrets, and it just brings them together that could possibly, what brings them together could possibly tear them apart in a violent manner. And the end result is a highly entertaining thriller that builds the suspense quite effectively and doesn't let go until its surprising plot twist-laden ending. So beware of that man or woman of your dreams. They may have a skeleton in their closet that can be deadly.
And that skeleton could be you.
Yes, that's right. So let the reader beware.
So this week's book is?
It's called The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. It's published by Poison Pen Press, and it's $26.99 in trade paperback.
And what other books in this genre do you recommend, sir?
Well, I thought of recommending more Frida McFadden books, but I've done that before. So I decided to cite 2 titles from one of my other favorite horror authors, Stephen King, but in which the main character of the books are women.
Okay.
For example, his first book, Carrie, published in 1974, became a movie with Sissy Spacek. Great literary debut about a much teased and abused high school girl who develops the power of telekinesis and uses it as a means to wreak revenge in the most violent way. The book is terrific. I mean, let's thank Tabitha King, his wife, who saw the manuscript in the waste paper basket and picked it up and encouraged Stephen to give it another shot because it was rejected by quite a lot of publishers before that. So let's thank Tabitha King for that.
Interesting that he has a wife named Tabitha.
Yeah, isn't that?
His mother-in-law wasn't Samantha, was it?
No, I don't think it was Endora either.
Okay.
And the other book by Stephen King was published in 1995. It was called Rose Madder. I think this is one of his more overlooked, underrated kind of books. It's about a young woman who is escapes from an abusive marriage and ends up with a career as working in the audiobook trade. But she's doing fine until the husband, tries to hunt her down. But it was so well done. I mean, like I said, that was following 2 books that I was very disappointed with, Dolores Claiborne and Gerald's Game. And I thought Rose Madder was, of those 3 books that were published that time, that was the far superior book.
So again, this week's book again is?
It's called The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, published by Poison Pen Press, and it's $26.99.
And how do we find you? And I'm assuming that's not lurking in the shadows someplace.
No. You could find me in the pages of Montreal Times, mtltimes.ca, or my blog, stuartnulmansgrapevine.wordpress.com.
Thank you very much, Stu.
You're welcome, and I'm now a chartered member of the Frida McFadden Appreciation Society. Just want to mention that.
Stuart Nulman with another edition of Book Banter here on the Stuff File program with me, Peter Anthony Holder.
The Stuff File.
And we're just about a racetrack for this edition of the Stuff File program. We do have an Idiot of the Day coming your way a little later on, but we have a couple of more Stuff File news stories to share with you right here, right now. Fast food restaurant employees seem to be going the way of the bank teller. McDonald's is overhauling all 43,000 restaurants with an AI makeover in an attempt to cut wait times and make a better experience for both customers and employees. Upgrades will start with internet-connected kitchen equipment, AI-enabled drive-thrus, and AI-powered tools for managers to help make sure that orders are accurate and so restaurants can predict equipment issues before they shut down. McDonald's hopes that the AI upgrades will help grow loyal Golden Arches customers from 175 million to 250 million by 2027. The Golden Arches will be looking for a generative AI virtual manager that will perform administrative tasks, including shift scheduling, instead of a manager. The edge computing system will also be able to power voice AI at the drive-thru, which McDonald's is exploring with Google's cloud computing arm, a venture that they had already unsuccessfully tried out with IBM back in 2021. In July of 2024, they cut the AI drive-thru after angry customers reported receiving items they didn't order. Now, normally I would ask, what could possibly go wrong? But we've already seen what can go wrong. Actually, that was a situation that was problematic for McDonald's last year. And we have a baseline with the HAL 9000 in 2001, A Space Odyssey.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't give you extra fries.
That's where it begins. Who knows where it will end? An Oklahoma toddler called 911 and asked the dispatcher for emergency donuts. The Moore Police Department reported that the child spoke gibberish and then asked for the sweet treats. Officers visited the Bennett household, emergency donuts in tow. "We came to give you some donuts," an officer can be heard saying on a video posted on social media. The toddler apparently was playing with an old phone when he made the call. Police reminded the parents that as long as an old cell phone is functional, it can be used in an emergency. You do realize how impossible that child will be able to take no for an answer as he grows up, right? Yeah. Elsewhere, no, it's not a rerun from 1903 or even 1963, but train robberies are a thing again. The bandits sneak aboard freight trains heading east out of the port of Los Angeles, and once they get to lonely areas in the Mojave Desert, they cut an air brake hose, causing an emergency stop, and a human conveyor belt of thieves unloads cargo into a waiting truck. There have been at least 10 such incidents, mostly targeting Nike sneakers, with a total value approaching $2 million. According to the Association of American Railroads, those capers are just a drop in the bucket, with at least 65,000 cargo thefts from trains in 2024, up 40% from the previous year, with a total take of more than $100 million. It might sound difficult to catch such thieves, but Nike, at least, has found a way by scattering trackers in shoe shipments, leading police right to their trucks. Well, maybe that's why we've never heard of a big cargo heist targeting Apple AirTags. Anyway, boys and girls, it's that moment you've all been waiting for. It's time now for the Idiot of the Day.
And now it's time for the strange things adults do. The Stuff File presents the Idiot of the Day.
This is an update from a story that I shared in this very segment back in 2023, because it took this long to get a conviction. What can I say? The courts move slowly. Anyway, a woman will spend decades in prison after she murdered her elderly roommate and poured Mountain Dew on herself in an attempt to destroy evidence. You may remember that police responded to a call regarding a fire at a residence in the wee hours back in July of 2023. When they arrived, they found a deceased 79-year-old man on the second floor of the burning home with signs of blunt force trauma and stab wounds. Police also found a bloody knife and 2 cell phones near the victim's body, one of which belonged to the woman's roommate, 37-year-old Nicole Max. Officers found Max at around 3 a.m. walking without shoes near a restaurant, holding a knife and a hammer. Upon arrest, when they told Max that they were going to take a DNA sample from her, she asked for a Diet Mountain Dew, which she began pouring all over her body and hair and pulling away from officers. They got her DNA anyway. On February 27th of this year, Max pleaded no contest to second-degree murder, resisting with violence, arson, and tampering with physical evidence. She was sentenced to 35 years in prison. As I said back in 2023, I'll say it now. Why? Oh, why? Would you possibly think that pouring an entire can of Diet Mountain Dew all over your body, which admittedly is better than pouring it down your throat, would eliminate evidence that you were a murderer? One reason, and one reason only. You're an idiot!
Gee, I'm only a kid, but even I know you're an idiot.
And that's it for this edition of the Stuff File program, number 0812. Hope you enjoyed it. The website is thestufffile.com, and Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H, where you'll find information and links on all of our guests by going to the weekly Stuff File page. Just look for the corresponding program number, and once again, that's 0812. Email me at peter@thestufffile.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Spoutable, Mastodon, and Blue Sky as PA Holder. Check us out on patreon.com, where you can become a patron of the program. Hope to see you back here for our next show on the air, online, or as a download. We're coming to you from everywhere, including kdxradio.com, over the air on World FM in New Zealand, WLSL-LP FM in Dade City, Florida, KZZH-LP FM in Eureka, California, CKUW FM in Winnipeg, CFMU in Hamilton, CKLU in Sudbury, Local 107.3 FM in St. John, CHSR in Fredericton, and also streaming on just about any streaming service your little heart desires. That's it. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder, a presentation of Flying Fish Communications. If you were to play this episode backwards, then they'd give it this... Go ahead, try and figure that out.